I'm Rahat, and we are a leading provider of integrated workplace management system. I will be responsible for hosting this webinar today. Microcorp, in collaboration with Construction Industry Development Boards, are initiating a 7-series webinar discussing on how facilities management activities will need to evolve by exploring the concept and strategies of digitalization. Thank you to CIDB for willingness to collaborate with Microcorp for this webinar. For today's webinar, we are going to be talking about asset management, the uncompromised ammunition. This webinar is part of our 7-series webinar 2022 Battle of the Digital Transformation in Facility Management. We have been hosting series of webinar, and our webinar basically revolves around one theme, which is the digital transformation in facility management. The architecture, engineering, and construction AEC industry is leveraging on the availability of technology to gain the optimal result from implementing the digital tools. Major shifts in this competitive asset management environment encourage recent growth in enhancing different components, tools, and the activity devoted to strategy aspect of asset management. Organizations start to recognize that a strategic approach to asset management becomes a source of sustainable competitive advantage and long-term survival in the facility management turbulent environments. This leads to theoretical and methodological consistency in understanding asset management in a more strategical way. Our goal is to build awareness among organizations and AEC practitioners on the importance of having a comprehensive strategy, evolving technology advancement in order to make project and organization run more efficiently. This webinar aims to address the additional knowledge required in implementing and or managing digital transformation in facility management from the asset management perspective to improve the whole facility management process. With us tonight, we have 3 speakers. Mr. Edward Tay, Chief Executive Officer of Systema Asia Capitals. Welcome, Mr. Tay. Associate Professor Dr. Maimuna Sapri, who is the Chair Business Management Division Department of Deputy Vice Chancellor Development at UTM. Selamat datang, Prof. Mai. And Mr. Zainuddin Zainal, General Manager Operation Private Sector of Chulia FM. Welcome, Mr. Zainuddin. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping items. Everyone is on mute. If you have any question for our speaker, please feel free to enter them into the chat box session. We will be addressing questions at the end of the session. Or you can also ask by raising your hand at the participant section of your Zoom interface. We are also recording this, and the recorded version of today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session. Without any further ado, I would like to turn this over to our first speaker, Mr. Edward Tay. Thank you very much. Mr. Tay, over to you. Can you unmute your...
Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, my name is Edward Tay. I'm the CEO for Systema Asia Capital. So just to share a bit about my company and myself, facility management is something that I'm intimately involved from the last century. Somewhere in the middle of the 90s, I'm already involved in that itself. At that time, I was with IBM. I've actually helped to manage some of the facilities over in Asia Pacific. So thereafter, you know, we have I have seen facility management improve by leaps and bounds. Right. In the past, it's all very manual basis, very paper based, and right now it is very IT based, very digital based. So without much ado, I'd just like to share a bit of our learning process over the years in this panel today. So my group is actually one of the largest group globally. We're one of the Forbes 2000 group itself. We are actually listed in both London Stock Exchange and Moscow Stock Exchange. And we have several big businesses. So one of which was actually we have a listed company over in London as well. And that is actually in real estates. Yep, called Athlon Group. And also we have a few listed companies who are in the hospitalities and as well as the retail sectors itself. So there are a lot of facilities within our portfolios. And also we own mobile carrier that is actually listed in New York Stock Exchange, MTS. That is the largest mobile carrier over in Russia and CIS business. All in all, our groups are servicing about a total about 150 million of consumers globally. So we have to manage a lot of buildings, a lot of facilities, a lot of commercial buildings, as well as industrial parks. Yeah. So these are just some of the portfolios itself. And myself, I'm the professional fund manager based out from Singapore. Systema Asia Capitals, we are the tech venture arm. These are some of the companies that we have invested. So right now I have 2 unicorns under my portfolios. One of them, interestingly, is called Inframarket. Inframarket is actually an e-commerce in built environment. This is actually based in India, and presently their market capitalization is about 2.5 billion US dollars. We work with a lot of co-investment partners, right? So, some of the bigger companies like Bain's and Goldman's, and also Sequoia's and Temasek. So I think facility management is something that is somewhat very different. I guess with you guys who are already in these facilities itself, you probably would have a lot more in-depth technical knowledge about how this whole facility management is. But what I'd like to share a bit is actually in terms of the big pictures, coming from fund managers, coming from owners of a lot of facilities, coming from more than 20 over years of facility management experiences, and as well as digitizations of the whole facility management. So first and foremost, I think one of the things we noticed was actually this is a very big business, right? Large enterprise segments. So we find that many big companies, right, listed companies or even governments are actually some of the early adopters of all these facility management solutions. And this is simple economics, because the bigger the facility is, if you're able to help to save the energy costs, if you're able to help to save the water costs, if you're able to save the broadband cost itself, right, that actually translates to a lot of cost savings. And this is the key reasons why we are driving all the big companies to do that. Plus, of course, facility management in the past, right, 3 decades ago has been very, very labor intensive, right? Right now, with ITs, right, one person is able to do 3% or 5% jobs. So it's a lot more easier. And so we see the facility management growth globally is growing to close to about $76 billion by 2026, right? And out of that growth, we feel that there will be a significant amount on the cloud segments. So this market about cloud-based solutions are actually gaining popularity. I will share a little bit more about that later on. And the focus has always been on solutions, how solutions can help big companies and building owners actually helps to improve that market itself. Yep. So this is one slide which I'm sure a lot of you guys have already been part of that transformations. Really, IoTs has been using actively across, the cooling towers, the UPS, the transformers, distribution panels, everything that is part of the facility management are right now interconnected with IoTs. And all these devices and sensors are everywhere in the building itself, right? And that cut across the entire city, that cut across the entire country itself. And all this actually allows a lot of important data and information to be collected. So why do we need all this information and data? Maybe you'd like to ask. I think this is data-driven decision making, right? So in the smart building itself, right? After we invest so many sensors and IoTs, we collect a lot of data. And some of these data over time itself actually is very important, because we can, number one, we can monitor what is the current energy consumption you are using and how it actually changes from time to time. And also by comparing the data quarter to quarter, month to month, right, we can actually help to offset some of the seasonal changes. Perhaps in Malaysia, there is a bit less, but there is still seasonalities due to the weather, due to the monsoons. But in general, energy consumptions on a building per se tends to stabilize over a period of time. So by using data, we are able to better manage these performances for all these assets. And so given all this data itself, space planning is a lot more easier, right? Planners, right? Building planners and also interior decorators are able to use a lot of the indoor space a lot more better. They're able to perhaps predict, right, the footfalls, they're able to predict the air ventilations, they're able to predict a lot of this information that is important for them as they redesign or they replan some of the space over there itself. All right. Security right now is heavily using a lot of AIs, image processing, and they are tapping a lot of video data right now. And also, many of you who are already active in the facility management, you will already start to see a lot of virtual realities and augmented realities, VRs and ARs being used, right, for the trainings, for the technicians, for the engineers, but also for many of the guys who are actually helping to maintain some of these facilities, including all the equipment itself, for example, the chillers and all this. Because nowadays it's no longer, it's very easy to train and engineers, other technicians using the HoloLens, right, and show them of the cooling towers, show the entire details of the distribution panels, who are very dangerous, right, without actually having to physically risk their lives, right, at their learning stage. So I think these are all very, very good tools to actually host on. And of course, ITs has been used actively in a lot of equipment predictive and also demand management processes. So all these are very, very key tools whereby, because of the pandemic right now that all of us is facing, so there is a lot of health and safety new requirements. And these health and safety new requirements will all transform our workplace, how we manage the workplace. And right now, compared to 2-3 years ago, we have to support a lot more remotes and workers who are working on remote and on-site. So technology can be used very nicely to help to promote many of these collaborations. And I think most importantly is in Malaysia and also in ASEAN itself, we are seeing a lot of these cloud technologies that's coming out. There's going to be a lot of good technologies that is going to be applying itself in terms of apps, in terms of software as a service. So thank you very much for having me. This is my LinkedIn, and feel free to contact us.
Thank you, Mr. Tay. Yeah, I think nowadays when we talk about the data of the asset compared to last time when we thought that the financial system and the human resource system is the biggest information that you want to manage. But after realizing about the asset now, I think these are among the numbers of things that especially on your side, managing many facilities, holding many portfolio under your responsibility. So I believe that you've got a lot of data that need to be processed, especially on the asset data, on the day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year, to manage in order to to sustain the asset that you manage, to make use or to improvise the assets that you have under your portfolio. So thank you. All right, I would like to invite our second speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Maimunah Safri. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Encik Shanun, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. Good night, good afternoon, as where the participant, is being. Okay, Alhamdulillah, thank you. First of all, I would like to say to the organizer for inviting me be one of the speakers within this quite encouraging seminar. In fact, the topic today, it's quite challenging as the name, the uncompromised ammunitions. I feel like we are all involved in this asset management. We are about to go for battle. This is what I've been thinking when I look at this topic provided by the secretariat or the organizers. Okay, I'm sharing my slide. Okay, can you see my slide? Yeah. Right. Thank you very much. So,
maybe,
and it shows how the organizations. Yeah. Right. Can you hear me? Is that okay? Okay. So from okay, so for my perspective at the moment, I think it's because I'm from UTM, so as public sector is concerned, the challenge is quite different because we have to really go on these different kinds of proposals. We have to go look onto the business model. In fact, in terms of the technology itself is quite, if I can say that, it's quite behind from the private industry. Whatever it is, from my point of view, you have to look at asset as an investor opportunity. Okay, how asset should be optimized by doing any good decision or business model. Okay, as
it took me so long to just go somewhere, and then now you're there.
Okay, Prof. Continue.
Okay, right. Okay, so because macam dengar somewhere. Okay, right. So I think a part of that, it is important for us to look into the importance of this digitization. Okay, as mentioned, as what's aimed by this webinar, in asset management, so that the asset manager, the player, can stay in the game. Okay, why I say in the game? Because we are in the battle. If we wrongly manage our asset, it will give an impact towards the decisions and the productivities, and of course the revenue of the asset. So the big idea that I would like to postulate within this context is that we have to look at, when we talk about asset management, the market conditions or the market segment of an asset remain volatile. However is that we have to stay steadfast in the search of consistent income from fixed asset. From public sector, for example, we have so many assets, the unmovable asset, but in terms of the use of asset, in fact, when we talk about the digitalizations of an asset, where this is really when we talk about service delivery. And if compare the private sector, I quite admire with Mr. Edward, Mr. Edward, when they promote how the business is going, the billions of revenue from an asset, how these digitals involved in the asset allocations to manage inventory up to the service delivery. But yet, in public sector, we are so very behind. In fact, in all the matters, we still use a manual, just a piece of paper to represent the output for the business. Yeah. However, is that I think as you travel along in the digital path, I believe that how well if we realize the value will impact whether lead or fall behind from. We have to move forward where we look at how asset the revenue model that I'm going to share tonight will help in terms of to survive within the battles. Okay, so the first step is that you have to make a general checkup as far as ammunition is concerned, as far as the importance of bullet is concerned within this asset management industries and platform. General checks up is very, very important, and this is the first step of doing business. I reckon that, yeah. Edward or Mr. Edward, yeah. Because I'm talking in front of the business man, Mr. Moderator, right? Compared to myself, is from public asset, so the battle is different, yeah. But the aim, of course, for the revenue, right? So that's why I think for the first step is for general checkup. So within this context, I think the asset will be quite an important part, as you mentioned before, because it is a resources for the organizations. In fact, for the public asset, it's the resources from the public. So how we should manage is in a way that very in efficacy way, right? So I think as far as business resources is concerned, so the first step is that you have to be able to monetize things for longer. So when we talk about monetize, it's not only monetary. Even the word is monetize, the meaning is RM or pound sterling, okay, or Sing dollar, yeah, and Mr. Edward, whatever it is that, but we have to look at beyond the money. Because the contribution is assets is not within the context of benefit to the community, benefits within the service delivery, because it judges the importance of asset. Otherwise, that general checkups is not. It means by why the asset should be in the first place being constructed, okay, or a plan to be built. As we know, when we talk about asset, there is a theory of iceberg. If I may share, the theory of iceberg saying that the first 10% is the project cost, but we always also have to look at on the other 90%, where is the importance of the maintenance cost, the operation cost, up to the disposal. So this is where, within the context of asset management, if we not look at on the life cycle of the asset, we have not conduct the general checkups, it will give us a quite important challenges in order to make a decision to monetize an asset. Okay, yes, you have to monetize, yes, you have to make an asset. So how are we going to analyze the investment? Is that feasible, viable or not? And what are the capacity or the basis of decisions, yeah, for us to make an investment? Okay, so that's the question that should be raised when we talk about the battle in asset revenue model. So gains from asset significantly up, of course, with a proper strategy in investment appraisal within holistic asset spectrum. And when we talk about investment appraisals, it's not a short term, it's beyond long term, it's infinity, because as far as asset is concerned, yeah, there is cost of ownership. So what if you bear the cost of ownership without monetize the asset? Okay, so by the end of the day, the asset will goes to you as a cost center rather than profit center. And of course, the last part, even it's not the end of the action, but as asset manager will have to derive with asset management plan. It's only 3 words, asset management plan. But in order to conduct the asset management plan is quite tough if we manually manage. So I think this webinar, when we talk about the digitalizations, the importance of our digital futures, what exactly should be released as the first wave of investment analysis. Of course, we need this kind of digital, whatever in terms of informations, the data system, so that we can plan the asset management. The asset is rigid, yeah, because it's physical. But the important thing is that the process and the people within the physical. I think this is where the good practices management or different asset classes should be planned according to the strategic business objective. As we mentioned, asset, there is so many asset classifications from building, land, infra. In fact, for the building itself, there is different types of building, office, healthcare services, and these different kinds of services that offer from the physical of the asset is require different strategies. Yeah, right. So I reckon this is the secrets behind data. Okay, I think I would like to share with the audience. Okay, asset management ammunition outlook. I very love the ammunition strategies that been highlighted by the organizer, because I mentioned before, this is a bullet that need to use in asset management framework. Okay, so within this context or the spectrum of success in asset and facilities management, I share this through my experience dealing with public asset within the higher education institution. Yeah, as the challenge is different. In fact, if you want to buy something, for example, you just want to buy any vehicles, for example, okay, it takes us at least 1 year. You know, because we have to go through the process of approval because we're dealing with a public fund, right? In fact, when there is a complaint from the customers, for example, our students, for them to, there is something issues on the maintenance of the door of the hostel, for example. So it takes 2 or 3 days just to fix the door. Just imagine a room without the door for 3 days. Okay, but it's really happened. Okay, so that's why when this asset management ammunition being addressed, so I would like to share. First, we have to really look on the business mission. What is the business mission? What exactly we want to achieve? Okay, because once we understand and really anticipate and really want to go on our business mission, so we have to look on the standards of ammunition storage. Okay, the terms of standards of ammunition storage is it seems like you want to store the bullet or the any equipment for battle, but within this context, you have to look at from the perspective of asset management, where we must really have ample storage, ample area in terms of the resources to manage the mission. The financial ability, the people with skill, the right process. So that must be standards that we have to set in. And then the second one is that we have to go on the organizational capacity. So to what extent that we are capable to, okay. So this is where we can, because if you wrong, it means that the ideas to deliver, achieve the business mission will be have any issues. Okay, and the third one is okay, through a span of time, it must be continuity, because there is a risk, a value, and quality. So of course, we have to provide a shelf life strategies, or the outlook in terms of spectrum of success is that the life cycle, yeah, the expirations, or the replenishments and disposals of the asset itself. It's not only the asset, but the energy within the asset position. Okay, and finally, checks and training for small arms training. Okay, so that it will contribute to the overall spectrum of access. And within this context, I reckon for us to input on the asset management strategies, the key formula is that we have to identify what is the spectrum really of success, and this spectrum will be from one. Sharon, I think that's my position for tonight. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Yeah, very interesting, because it's like you are relating how we manage assets. It's like we have the art of war of managing assets, So when you talk about the battles, So, and you also share the battle game plan, So this is something like very interesting when you map the things in relation to the battles topic that we have. The idea is that when we talk about this asset initially, it's like without these assets, the building, the property or the facility is nothing. It's just an empty building without anything. So we can't use it. That's why we are thinking that it's important that we, when we want to go for the battles, this asset is our ammunition. Without it, we can't win the war. And of course, we need to take care of all this ammunition, Otherwise, whether it cuts short our life or maybe we lost the battles. So anyway, so good perspective. Thank you, Prof. And now I would like to have insight from Mr. Zainuddin. Over to you, Mr. Zainuddin. So what is Mr. Zainuddin is the experienced facility manager. So over to you.
Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Zainuddin. I come from an organization called Julia Facilities Management Sdn Bhd. By the name itself, you must understand we are actually an outsourced FM company to many set of clienteles. We have worked with clients from manufacturing, healthcare, education, banking sector, and all. So we have quite a diversified bunch of clients to work with, and their assets and the facilities that we have been taking care. We are essentially an FM player in the market in Malaysia. We have been in the business for the past 15 to 20 years. Right? And when Mr. Sharanon invited me to become the speaker, I was a bit appalled by the title or theme of the webinar, 2022 Battle of the Digital Transformation in Facility Management. Right? Battle. Yes. In essence, if I can break it down to battle, I can equate it to paradigm shift or change of mindset, because in the face of the current pandemic and all, we have got to look at a model which is sustainable by both players and clients. Look at in terms of practicality of managing the asset. All right. So I'm going to be a bit grounded in my presentation. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to share, but I'd like to share the experience that we have through the years. How do we go managing assets? Literally, in manual style, and then how does the organization actually understand and take this challenge of, how do you work with data, and how do we go about looking at the data and making the data work for us and for the client. But I think the bigger picture actually is this paradigm shift that I was talking about earlier. It's a two-way thing. It is not only the FM players to the client, it's also client acceptance to this battlefield or this paradigm shift. That sooner or later, I hope it's sooner, that the clients must understand that, you know, tactically we have got to move into the era of digitization, so that, you know, we can both work client and operator or contractors, you know, we can look at the speed, we can look at the accuracy, and we can look at the decision that we want to make to the asset, as in informed decision, you know, so that we know exactly what to do now and in the future. All right. I think the ammo we're looking at, the ammunition that we're looking at, the ammo for all this that we are looking at essentially is the data. All right. So I like to share the experience that we have in acquiring data and making the data works for both us contractors and also the client. All right. So having informed you about the multiple set of clients that we have been working with, you know, banking, manufacturing, healthcare, education, all, you know. So as Prof. Mai was saying rightly, you know, we need to get the right data, the true data from the client. Data is by no means is only one way street. It's client to us. Data also can be acquired by what Ed was saying earlier. You know, if you were to install remote monitoring sensors in all the buildings for all the critical assets, then that particular sensors also can give us a decision. It can prompt us, can alert us, you know, to the next step that we need to do, so that we are all aware. Then we can take the appropriate action, you know, towards that. So when we talk about data, when we talk about asset, it is pertinent that both client contractors must have access to the right data. You know, the accuracy of the data, you know, notwithstanding brand name, model, year of quantity, year of manufacturing, year of installation, and all. You know, we have got to go beyond. We got to understand exactly where are they located in each building, so that we can do a proper asset mapping. Then by doing so, we can be accurate, you know, on the data that we are working with. And then, of course, the customer, at the end of the day, the data will work for us, as what Prof. Mai was saying, you know, in managing the performance. You know, they will give us some KPIs for us to work with. For example, we have to manage the facilities to an uptime of perhaps 90 to 95%, to a downtime of, you know, 5 to 10%. So by us performing whatever needs to be done, example, from the asset list, from the historical card or data that being shared with us, what we can do to the information is that we can do this planners, you know, that we can use the planners to plan for the maintenance of the asset and equipment, so that the asset and equipment will work well, and there will be least disruption to the operations of the client. Notwithstanding, you know, not only that we can do the preventive maintenance, the data that we're going to acquire, you know, example, anything from reactive breakdown or proactive breakdown, or even the new, not too new, but you know, it was seldom used, you know, predictive maintenance. So this is where, with all this kind of action plan that, you know, being done on part of the contractors, we're able to help customers to maximize the performance of the asset, with this disruption. So at the end of it, what I was talking about earlier, this battlefield is not about just contractors or FM players to the client. It's also the mindset of the client get to be open, because in the face of the pandemic, let me share a bit of experience, because some of my clients are from government, so it's not to criticize, or but what I'm trying to say is that in the fees that we draw month in, month out, a good sizable portion of that fees are actually paying for the remuneration or paying for the salary of the staff as per their requirement. They'll probably be asking for, you got to put in one facility manager, one civil engineer, one electrical engineer, 5 civil technician, 3 electrical technician, 4 mechanical technicians, which we can use technology now, to substitute the presence of the numbers of inside, at site or in situ technician, so that the cost of employing these people can be plowed back into other things, But on our part, we can actually employ technology, as what Edward was saying, so we can have these remote monitoring sensors, for all the critical assets that we wanted to make. Even as simple as, light sensor example, it was a meeting and everybody left the meeting room and the light is still on. Somebody forget to switch on the light. Over a period of time, that lighting, is costing the company. The sensors probably will be able to detect that the light is still on, and then it will send signals, and a simple action of switching off, could save the company a lot. This is just a simple example. So in essence, Mr. Moderator, what I'm trying to say is this battle for asset management, the paradigm shift from the way we manage asset at the moment in time to digitization of the facility management is a challenge by itself, because in the part of the customers, they always be looking at employing technologies come with a cost, but that cost can give you a peace of mind in terms of accuracy and consistency, so that at the end of it, in terms of data reliability and integrity is the highest. And then there's always a balance and check and balance action by a contractor to client, client to contractor, so that the tracking of the performance of the asset can both be determined and satisfied, and then for us to meet to the requirement of the customer, meeting the targets, so that the asset can perform truly to the expectation of the customers. I think this is what I want to share tonight. I'm sorry because there is no slide for me to share. I'm just sharing you the experience that we have of the years managing asset, the way we managed it the last time, and then moving into this. But as I said just now, I cannot overemphasize this, but the truth of the fact is that actually the customer should be able to be looking at this paradigm shift in a more practical sense. In a way, it will help them in the long run in terms of managing their asset costs. I think that's why I wanted to share this tonight. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Zainuddin. Yes, very great. Thank you to you for sharing. So yeah, Mr. Zainuddin is the leader that actually instructing the organization do the paradigm shift. When he started to design the way that they should manage the assets towards to digitalization in many forms actually.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, and we will go ahead to take some time for a question now.
Yep.
And
Okay.
just a reminder, please be assured that to type your question into the chat box session. Or you can also ask by raising your hand at the participant section of your Zoom interface. And of course, we look forward for having many questions from the participants. Okay, meantime, we have a question now. Okay, we have a question from Mr. Edward actually. So, what is the effective strategy in convincing an organization on the importance of providing adequate funding for digital transformation in asset management, Mr. Edward? What is the effective strategy in convincing an organization on the importance of providing adequate funding for digital transformation in asset management?
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the question. Honestly, when I first started in FM in the mid-90s, I cannot understand why, because I'm just a technician becoming an engineer becoming a manager, right? So it's only after 10 to 15 years of work experience then I realized actually what it really meant, because the best way to justify, I use the word justify, for the investments or purchase of any equipment, okay, for your subsystems or even as big as the whole building, is ultimately about numbers. Okay, for example, I give you an example. Okay, for example, if we just use the cooling tower, for example, if investing 200,000 ringgits into this cooling towers of your building, okay, putting in sensors, putting in softwares, using artificial intelligence, right, and then he is able to let the maintenance crew know when to operate and how to operate, and then perhaps even to do digital interventions, okay. And if you can show that this 200,000 investments, okay, which will goes to pay for the equipments and installations and possibly the first 1 to 2 years of maintenance costs, is able to help the building owner or the landlord, okay, the company that you're working with, or even if you are working for facility managers like Julius, right? Then they can say that, okay, if you put in this 200,000, maybe in 5 years, 10 years, you get your money back because you do not use so much energy. You do not use so much water. And energy and water cost money in Malaysia and everywhere else in the world. In fact, what a lot of people don't know is the energy and the water will cost even more 10 years down the road. Yeah. So this payback is actually going to come much earlier than now, because right now the world is undergoing big changes. Yeah, this week, as it is over in Glasgow, the United Nations is having a COP 2026. It's a major event. 120 national leaders are over there. Malaysia have many senior government officials in the area of the constructions, the built environments, also sustainability, waters are over there discussing with everybody how best to actually help to decarbonize, right? To use green energy, right? So actually the calculation for these investments right now is actually much more appropriate as compared to 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, we have a period whereby energy level is very low, right? Water, we can always expect water to come. Yeah, but now not so. Even in Malaysia, if you notice, over the last 6 months, there are a lot more droughts. Yep, less rains.
Yeah.
Yep. And increasingly, this is going to affect the water level in our reservoirs in Malaysia, right? Water price is expected to go up. Whether you go up in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, right? It is a matter of national policies. So I think as building owner, or even as technicians, or even engineers, or even maintenance, right? When we actually put forth that amount of money, you can actually have certain amount of projection to say that, for example, if the energy costs go up by 10%, if the water costs go up by 10 cents, right? What happens, right? So that returns, I think you should share it very openly, because all these are all based on scientific, based on engineering, right? Many of you guys there are from engineering background, electrical, mechanicals. Yes, so all these numbers are all factual. Present it to the management, present it to the management companies, and then I'm sure they will be more open to see how that can be done. So that's one perspective. Another perspective I would like to say is actually over in Malaysia, they are starting to have policies whereby they are supporting replacement of equipment that are more energy savings. Yep. I think Encik Ahmad can actually share more about that stuff, and then also Mr. Jainuddin, because they are in this field, right? There are big grants, small grant, big subsidiaries, small subsidiaries. So depending on what equipment you want to change, what subsystem you want to change, you may want to again also propose of applying for some of these local government grants or federal grants, and that will also help to reduce the 200,000 that you are proposing, and over time that also help to reduce and increase the return on the investments. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Edward. Dr. Mai, want to add anything on that question, or you wait for another one for you?
Yeah, I think I wait for another one.
Okay. Okay, I think this is for you. What are the major obstacles for an organization that practice traditional asset management to transform into digitalized asset management? What are the major obstacles for an organization that practice traditional asset management to transform into digital asset management? Repeat the question.
Okay, thank you. I think okay, thank you, Sharanun. The line is not really good here. I think it's raining in JB, right? Okay. Yes. I think you yourself, Mr. Moderator, can answer the questions. You know, but the question, yes, it's very challenging. Okay. Okay. You just imagine, for me, manage quite numbers of projects. For example, land administrations, we go for land lease. In fact, we have this equestrian project in UTM. But somehow, if when we want to monitor the asset costs for maintenance, in fact, to monitor the billing for revenue is very difficult, because we have to look at the file piece by piece. In fact, if I want to monitor the performance of the investor, I have to print by using a piece of paper and make it into A4 paper, A3 paper. You know, so it's really challenging, and yet in order for us to go further, when we talk about digital twin, we talk about the dashboard, you know, but here in UTM, yes, it's a technology, okay, but the technology is not go for the asset management, it's go for the teaching and learning, right? Okay, so what we need to do is that the challenge is that we have to convince the top management that we really need that kind of system. So this is Sharanon duty for me, actually. Okay, we have to convince the university that we need to have this kind of system so that we can be more productive. Yeah, we can deliver more in terms of service delivery. In fact, if you want to identify what kind of maintenance, then it should be okay. And in fact, the maintenance is actually just a very simple issues. We should settle beyond the asset and facilities management, the asset management, you know. That's the first step of doing the business is maintenance. But yet the maintenance issue is still not settled yet. Okay, so and then the integration, without the system, we can't integrate. We may talking about the importance of integration, the synergy within the department, but without the system, we cannot integrate easily. And integration, I think, is one of the key, a battle point for us to success in asset management. Yeah, I think that's only my comment.
Okay. So actually, this is true. When we did a lot of transformation programs, I think the most difficult part is to convince the top management. So sometimes I like to use the computers or the handphone that they have. How many times the top management change handphones? I believe they like to go for the new one. I believe they would like to go for the advanced one because it helps them to communicate. It helps them to get faster information, faster results. As a leaders, as the head of as the head or top level management, they want to have all information in the fastest. It's the fastest mode. So I believe that by having this, as an example, of course, when we managing asset and we are towards the digital transformation, definitely you want to have a fast information, and for us to make a fast decision. And while our customer is utilizing or having issues on the utilizing the facilities or the asset that we have. So this is just a simple analogy that I always use, the handphone. Sometimes we invest a lot of things on the handphone, but how that we use the handphone that they already have a lot of things compared to the price, the cost that we pay for it. Okay, I think I have this one more question from Mr. Chiu Song Kit. This is a very interesting question. How does it implement widely in Sabah and Sarawak regions? It has to meet the authority strategies such as CIDB and REST. Do you have any standard practice and guideline, especially in the Sabah and Sarawak? Mr. Zainuddin, you want to share? Or Mr. Edward, any one of you?
Well, Sabah and Sarawak is a very vast region.
So as you all know, they also have issues on their communication when everybody work. Everybody have a school online.
Yep.
Some of them need to search for internet.
Yep.
So, and how? I think we need to address this issue. We need to bring up also this point to CIDB later on. We look on this also. Mr. Zainuddin, Prof.
I will not be able to answer it now, but I would like to come back. If I can, structure the response better. And in the face of so many other possibilities, and maybe Prof can help me, or Mr. Edward. I will not be able to.
You have managing a lot of facilities, whether it's a remote area or not. How you handle this?
The experience that we have so far managing facilities while we are utilizing all this technology, we do not face much problem with the internet infra. So we be able to perform to a certain sustainable result. But when we talk about remote areas like Sabah and Sarawak, there's another set of challenge that we have got to think of. It's not as simple as I probably will come back with the answer, not immediately now.
Maybe I'll just share an example, right? Yeah, I think over in Europe itself, right? There are also in places like East Europe and also Russia itself. It is a land space that actually spread across 8 time zones. Okay, 8 different time zones. Right. I think this is somewhat very similar. Sabah, Sarawak, and the West Malaysia spread across, I think, close about 3 time zones. Right. So in places of 8 time zones, right, you have very, very rural areas. You have very, very urban densities. How we manage the systems over there are actually very local in nature. Yep. If you look at the regulator perspective, right, the regulators will not tell us that, one chiller, right, in the rural area, right, must, or rather allowed to use more energy compared to urban area, because one chiller is one chiller. They have to be fair to everyone. Okay, so I think this is one problem. It's the same, Sabah, Sarawak, and also on the other side of the peninsula. Right, so regulator cannot change, but what can change is because in the rural areas, because the chiller itself, because of the footfall, there are less people working in the place that the chiller is serving. There are less people who are eating in the restaurant that the aircon is serving, for example. Right. So actually, as a landowner, right, we tend to want to use even more energy efficient facilities over there, even more. Yep, right. So this is somewhat a little bit different, but this is a European experience. Yeah, this is a European experience, and the reason why they are explaining this again, it is still economics, because there are less people using, and if we use better equipment at those places, we spend less power, we use less water. Because over in Europe, power is very expensive. Yeah, much more expensive over compared to Asia. So it actually allows us to justify our investment a lot more easier. But in Asia, hydropower is abundance. Over in Siberia, over in certain East Europe side, they actually don't have hydro dams. So they can only rely on only solar power for renewables, or even just gas and oil. Yeah, so all this will ultimately, make the whole ROIs very different. So maybe I'd just like to share this, right, as a point of discussion for everyone.
I have some experience when we are dealing with this water utility company in Europe and UK. So how they handle this asset management, and towards to we don't call it digitalization those days. I think we talk about computerization. So what they try to use is that one is the shared environment. First is the shared environment whereby the utility, the water, and the energy, and even the waste management teams, they are combining to use the same source of communication device. So that's how they did it. To make of course, even though we thought that people in Europe and UK, they have like high-speed bandwidth, but those days they are same like us. So, and another thing is that they are utilizing the leftover technology. Like we did, like everybody want to upgrade 5G, 6G, 7G, so, but they just need a small amount of data, to be transmitted, so they don't need to have these high speeds, bandwidth, to transmit a lot of things, Of course, those days we don't need require a lot of data to transmit, not like now, we require to transmit images, everything, videos, But those days, how I learned from them, like a few and a water company in UK, so they use the leftover technology and identifying what asset information they want to transmit, especially on the rural area. That's very important information that they want to transmit in order for them to do the analysis. So they use that kind of concept because the leftover technology is there. So when they upgrade, the telco is not going to bring down their equipment at the towers. They stick there, and then they might offer to others. Why not you using it? You use it because of it. As long as I can get some revenue, or if not, otherwise I don't use it at all. Same goes to the fiber. When they left the copper, when they left over the copper, they're not going to roll it back, So they left it there, So that's why they use like the streamings, the dial-ups. They're still using it even though they are managing the SCADA system, to manage the water treatment plant. So they just want to have that some amount of data to be transmitted to the center in order for them to do the analysis. So when they have this kind of leftover technology, so all the old equipment is still can be utilized with the less issues, and at the same time they get all the data that they need. So while they're waiting, the rural area being developed, they still have this communication modes. So that's how they did it. That's why I learned about how can we use the leftover technology. Even though now when we talk about the communication, the Wi-Fi, of course we go for 3G, but still they are looking back the old technology to design the IoT device. Instead of they use the Wi-Fi speed, they still rely back to the old technology that is there. Nobody looking at it, but there's a workable and less interference with the Wi-Fi. So that's, I call it the leftover technology that still works. So, and then of course now to produce it is cheaper. So by right, the communication costs are going to be lower. You cannot go up. So that's how we can handle it if we are working together and to handle this data. Otherwise, we can't afford to pay the cost something that we want can get free. That's what my experience on when we dealing with these companies those days before I joined the SM organization.
Sharon, if I may add a bit, because the questions is about the how in terms of the implementations in Sabah and Sarawak. I think when we talk about asset management, the first thing when we talk about implementations, we have to recognize the state itself had to recognize the importance of asset management. For example, UTM just signed MOU with this Kerajaan Negeri Sarawak. So they start to appreciate the importance of data management for land management in Sarawak. Okay, so based on that land management, as we mentioned, as we know, asset is not only the building, it's the land, assets, and building and infra. So by Kerajaan Negeri recognizing the importance of land management, because the issues of land law in Sabah and Sarawak is different in Peninsular Malaysia, yeah. Because here we use the land law under National Land Code, but in Sabah and Sarawak it's quite different in terms of land administrations. So, but the point is that the recognitions from the top management, as mentioned before, and within this context is the state. Okay, so in order to implement, the first thing I think we have to convince the state how important is managing asset throughout, whether public or private sectors, because this asset management will contribute to revenue of the state. That the thing is in the first step that we should do. And in fact, for the experience of ETM, start from this MOU with this Kerajaan Negeri Sarawak, then they start to exposures on the land matters, and they start to recognize the importance of GIS, for example, in managing the asset. So slowly recognize the importance of these digitalizations. So that's my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah. So the most important is the stakeholder and the clients. I mean the top management. So I have this one more question to Mr. Zainuddin. I think we have famous tonight. Can you elaborate further about predictive maintenance that you just mentioned and how substantial it's towards the FM as a whole? Predictive maintenance.
Can you please repeat the question again?
Let me paste it. Can you please elaborate further about predictive maintenance?
Okay. Predictive maintenance is the ability to recognize error or would-be error ahead of time prior to failure, which means in our case, we install or we employ a lot of sensors, probably vibration sensors, for example, on many of these moving and oscillating parts. And then we plot the upper level limit, lower control limit, UCL up and LCL lower control limit, for us to understand what are the abnormalities that occurs and how can we arrest this problem before the actual breakdown. Then it saves a lot of time, then this again, as I said just now, by employing technologies, we can do this so that not only we save costs, there are also unnecessary downtime to clients and also to the team managing the asset, so that the asset can perform better, right? That is how we manage we are doing the spectrum maintenance at the moment in time. We employ technology to do it. Okay, heat sensors, vibration sensors, and when the temperature goes to certain abnormalities, it pre-alert us. It preempt us, alert us, and then we'll do up necessary action. Then we knew how to remedy the situation prior to the actual breakdown. This is in a simple way of describing it.
I do, if you are using manually and you describe it, I saw a lot of things need to be done manually and a lot of calculation need to be done manually in order for us to do a predictive maintenance.
Truly.
What do you think, Mr. Edward? So predicting something with a lot of mathematics to run,
Yeah, I can share my experience about turnovers. When I was a facility engineer. The first year I have to I was scolded many times by my senior engineers because I cannot tell which equipment is going to go down. I really cannot tell. All the box are there, everything is there. At that time, you're right, in the late 90s, there isn't any ITs and things like that. Everything is all, you go in, you see the number, you copy down, right? So we got to copy down all the numbers in the building, right? But as a young engineer, how do we know what is the right number, what is the wrong number, right? Then we use our hand to get in touch, right? Just now, Park was talking about, vibrator sensors, right? Yeah. We are using our hands as a feeler at that time. So sometimes I was so scared because, sometimes cold water, sometimes hot water, there's, so I typically use about one whole year just to understand where are the hot water, cold waters, electricities, everything that has been running. So I guess right now, for many of the young, even technicians that comes in, right, because of all the sensors, because of the abilities, and even some of this information for some of the systems are being captured in a mobile phone right now, right, in your tablets right now. So you can see very clearly whether any problem or not. So in the past, maybe my company need to have 10 technicians to operate and do so-called maintenance. Okay. Right now, maybe only one. Yep. Because the systems are able to highlight in red which system is wrong. And then every day we just go in to solve the problematic one. So it makes our life a lot more easier. Right. I don't need to go around, it's like, security jaga, go around and check everything. And then even then, as young engineers, it takes us a long time just to understand and figure out what went wrong and what doesn't went wrong. And in fact, the only time we learn is only when things goes wrong.
Yeah.
If things is okay, nobody can learn anything. Yeah. So I think facility management is about learning from failures. And the system itself is good because it actually helps to consolidate, years and years and, millions and millions of good facility managers and engineers, their experience into the system itself. So that young technicians and young engineers right now don't have to go through the kind of long journey that we have done in the past.
Yeah. I think, those days when we want to be at the level of our senior engineer, because they just like, I leak it and then I feel it, So, okay, now you need to turn it on. So, I think you need to have a journey to have that kind of experience. But of course, nowadays, the alerts is go up to your client, So you don't take care if properly, So the client are going to scold you. It's no longer the senior engineer to scold you, but the clients, the stakeholder are going to scold you. Even the clients of the clients, because they can see from their homes, what happened to their facilities. So it's become more critical way on how we want to manage this activity actually. Last time we can just turn it off, the alarm, then nobody knows, But now you can't simply turn the alarm off because you want to make sure the predictive activity in collecting this information.
Exactly.
I think it's become more critical way we need to handle the facility, but without the stress, Without the stress. That is the most important part, sir. Yeah, problem. Without stress, because everything now is they make you know, like Edward said, we need to touch the machine whether it's hot or it's cold. But I think, of course, this is improving of the way we manage facilities. So okay, I think we have come to the end. It's already 9:16. So I would like to wrap up. Anything from the speaker? Anything from Mr. Edward first? Anything from you for a last word?
Yeah, I just like to say that actually right now, facility management has become a lot more important, given that the world is suffering, right? And also given that now it actually does makes a lot of sense. A lot of bosses, a lot of owners already know that we need to cut energy and we need to cut water and we need to invest in technology to help to improve sustainability. Right, smart buildings and smart cities is no longer just a dream. So now there's a lot of funds, not only in Malaysia, but also in ASEAN and also globally. I think many people are trying to wrap around that itself. And also Malaysia have a lot of good technologies, good facilities, engineers and managers. So I think, some of these can even be exported overseas, I think. Right, given that Malaysia is also one of the better energy savings countries in the world. So I look forward to working closely and then learning from everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Edward. How about Prof? Any last word from you?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator, Jeff Sharanat. For me, within this asset and facilities management industry, on top of the digitalizations, the people's, the process, the one that we have to focus on is the people, because people is the one that acting of all this physical, and in fact, within this context, the integrity, the honesty, which in Malay what we call is an insight, because when we're dealing with all these kinds of gadget or physical things, but the human dimensions, what I'm saying, that the human dimensions is once and a vital part that you have to grow and you have to develop first, in further of the on top of the importance of the digitalizations of managing asset and facilities. That's only my word for this night. Thank you.
Yeah, the insan word. I think that's the human touch. Yeah, we don't touch the asset only. I mean, again, it's like Edward mentioned, we need to have human touch. I think there's something that we cannot miss. You know, the human touch is important. Yes, Mr. Zaruddin, last word from you.
Yeah, as I was saying over and over again in my small little presentation just now, it's a paradigm shift that both ends of the equation have got to work with. You know, meaning customer to client, client to customer, client to the contractors. This paradigm shift is very, very important because they need to understand that, you know, it starts with them as an asset owner to understand that the era of technology is here for us to utilize to the fullest, maximize its potentials. You know, in the long run, it will save a lot of cost, a lot of agony. So it is important that we have got to both end of the equation must sit down and try to understand the importance of digitization of assets. I think this is important paradigm shift.
Yeah, okay. Before that, thank you to all the speakers. Together, we Microcorp and CIDB. I would like to thank you, everyone, especially the speakers, for joining us this webinar. And before I end this webinar session, participants, please take out a few moments, fill the feedback form to obtain your CCD and CPD point from CIDB. Because CIDB are providing a CCD and CPD point to whoever that participating in this webinar. And the link for the feedback form will be posted in the chat box. I think already been posted. And great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to CIDB for making this webinar success. We appreciate you being here together with us and CIDB. And by the way, thank you for joining us tonight. And we have the fourth webinar session on next Tuesday, 16 November, 8 to 9 p.m. The title now is Operation and Maintenance Attacks. So we'll be having Mr. Shahrul Nizam Samsudin, Chief Executive Officer of DM Agenda, and also SR Dr. Yohanis Khalid from Senior Lecturer of the UITM. We hope to have another third speaker that will be going to quite soon to join us. So my last words, thank you very much for joining us. See you next 2 weeks. Assalamualaikum and good night.